Hey, what's going on, champs? I'm Aaron Deliosa. Welcome to an Immigrant's Life podcast, my podcast about immigrants and immigration and everything in between. Thank you for listening and downloading the show, and thank you for supporting my dad.
Welcome back, Immigrant Nation. Another week, another new episode. I appreciate that you're here. I appreciate for the ones that have been listening since I started this podcast. And for the ones that just listening now, welcome. I hope you like what you're hearing, that you would subscribe to this beautiful podcast of ours. Also, if you want to join the Immigrant Nation, you can check our social media accounts. Our handle is at An Immigrant's Life. That's where you can reach us out. And if you want to come on the podcast, or if you know someone that wants to come on the podcast and tell their beautiful story, you can also email us at animmigrantslife@yahoo.com. Let's connect and let's tell that beautiful story of yours. I hope you guys had a great weekend, Easter weekend for some. Last week, Montrealers thought we were out of the woods from the winter's clutch. But Mother Nature had other plans. We had an ice storm here, and a lot of people, including us, lost power. Actually, there are some people that are still in the dark. There was a lot of damages that caused by the ice on trees and power lines. So the people are working hard, but it's taking time. It wasn't bad for us because it was just like a night or two for us, but it reminded me about me growing up as, poor in a poor country, and how it made me resilient to challenges like that. It made me realize that how grateful I am for that experience. And one also thing that made me realize with this recent experience was the importance of family and community. Speaking of community, this week's episode, our guest and I tackled the importance of being in a supportive environment as it helps one live fulfilled life. I'm so excited for you to listen to this podcast, to this episode, because I loved and learned so much from this episode. So let's not waste more time. Without further ado, let's get into the show. Isa, dalawa, tatlo. Today's guest is a multidisciplinary artist and the co-creator of Luband is Real podcast. Her sun-soaked skin glimmers in the sunlight to make our world a little brighter. Everyone, please welcome Stecy Baragengana.
Hey.
What's going on?
So, I'm doing good. I'm chilling. I'm here. I'm excited to be on your podcast. It's always very interesting to be on the other side. So I'm usually on your side of the
Yeah, for
of
sure.
the table. And so my name is Stecy Baragengana, and I come from Burundi, born and raised. I came here at the age of 14, here being Canada. And I moved here with my brother. At the time I was 14, he was 17. And we kind of figured things as we were going, pretty much.
The fun part.
And still figuring it out as we go. And I founded the podcast, Le Bond is Real. I have my brother, Jalen Manzi, as my co-host. And we've been going on strong for a year now. Officially, we've completed the first year. Currently, we're on break, but we're going to come back sometime, as soon as spring actually springs. We'll be there, just like the sun. We'll be back when the sun is fighting harder,
Oh, yeah, definitely, man. By the way, I don't know if I was going to say it right, but Murakoze for coming on the podcast.
Oh, beautiful. Murakoze gushima, meaning you're welcome.
I was
Love
like,
it.
I was trying to I do some research on the guest, and I was trying to look stuff from him. Like, man, this girl got nothing. Where is this girl? There is no way she got nothing. And then I finally got your last name somehow. I was like, hey, what's up, girl?
Let's go. That's funny because that's why I like my social media. Sometimes it's you have to do an extra step to find my full name, and I like it that way because it's like there's the professional of like my full name, and there's the social media still professional, but like more fun, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. By the way, do you know what your last name means?
Yes. So I have an uncle who told me this, so I can't say for sure, but he's told me that our last name means that. So Baragengana, the people where my father is from, they take care of one another. So they're there for one another, and they protect one another, and they're there for one another. And so, yeah, I like that name and the meaning in that sense because I feel like I'm somebody who tries to be there for people, and my people, and to really support them and to have a little bit of reciprocity going on. So, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I actually was having conversation with my family about the community, the sense of community, like, living in a city, living in a big place, like, it feels like there's not community, the feeling of community, like in my culture, we have this thing, they don't do this anymore, but I grew up seeing this. People used to, all the men in the town will come together, and if someone is moving their house, they will literally move the house. They will put bamboo sticks underneath, and all the men will lift it.
Wow.
And go to another place. It's called bayanihan. Bayanihan. I mean, bayan means town. It's a sense of helping each other out. And my son was asking, like, do you get paid for this? I'm like, actually, no. You don't get paid. You just do it because you care about the person, And
Capitalism.
Like it's gone now. The community. It's not that gone, but it becomes like smaller.
That's true. I've noticed that too in my country where people tend to keep amongst themselves, and so the community is not a community at large. It's like a community with like little communities within the community.
Yeah, like another example is when the town feast happens. We used to put like plastic straws, but they'll make like little flags, and they'll put it up in the ceiling in the sky, right? And it's a decoration, and it was a great way of people helping each other out because it has to be the whole area that will do it, and then it opens a dialogue.
It does. Yeah, no, I agree. Even as like when people pass, for instance, like it's a whole thing, and people come together, they help out, they give money for the ceremonies, whatever they have, to help out with that. No, it's really that's something from my culture that I really appreciate, and that I try to translate into what I do. Because I think it's very important. It's very, very important. And something with all the globalization and capitalism is something that we seem to be losing slowly but surely a little bit. That sense of community and sense of, we can help each other out. The helping out, has not diminished, but I guess it goes with what everybody has the capacity to do. But I find that it's gotten a little bit like people don't necessarily want to help another person unless there's something in return that's gonna happen.
Yeah. You're doing it because you want to do it, not because you're gonna get paid or something. You're gonna get something from it. Yeah, I mean, I'm trying. It's difficult, but we gotta try, right? By the way, you mentioned earlier that you're from Burundi, and you moved there when you were 14. What was the reason of the move?
I don't know. Honestly, I don't have the concrete answer, but the generic one would be better life, better access, better schooling, better education, things like that. And some sort of sense of security as well, because there sometimes the country is not like sometimes it can be in unrest situation. So yeah, so like security and things like that. But I don't have the specific like, okay, this is the game plan. This is what was happening. We don't have all that talking.
You don't need to know kind of
You don't need to
situation.
know extra things that are not pertinent to you.
Wait, did you move with your brother or with your family?
I moved with my brother.
Yo, 14 and 17?
Yes, sir.
Whoa. Did you want to move?
There's a part of me that wanted to move because, you know, I had never left the country before. So I was very excited to live and to take a plane for the first time. I thought it was going to be a vacation. Like in my head, I knew we were leaving, but I thought like, I don't know what I thought. I was 14. Like
you don't know nothing.
I wasn't fully there. So, so we were given a heads up. So we were getting some papers, getting our passports, and I started asking questions. I was like, okay, so what's going on? What are we doing? Where are we going? And it's like, first of all, it's not we, it's you and your brother. And I'm like, oh, okay. Okay. Then it was, then we were, you know, all throughout the process, they were eventually told us what was happening and a bit of the game plan. I had no idea what was like. I didn't know it was gonna be for real, and that it was gonna be a long time. I didn't think it was gonna be the rest of my life type of thing. I thought it was, you know, just a little vacation, a little, you know, 1 month, 2 months, maybe at most. But now we're counting in terms of years. So, yeah.
I mean, it worked out.
It did. In the end, it did. I'm grateful that it did. Yeah, I'm grateful that it did in the end.
Who took care of you when you landed in Canada? Wait, did you land in Montreal, by the way?
No, I landed in. I landed, but I went to Ottawa.
Okay.
When I arrived to Canada.
Okay.
So I went to Ottawa. We spent a year there. I was with my father's brother there. Not the best living conditions, and so it wasn't a good fit, I would say. So they got us to stay with my aunt, and she then became like my mom, really, because from the age of 15 till now, she's been in my life and is still, you know, doing the things that, you know, are necessary during the day, you know, schooling, following up things, you know, all of that good stuff. So yeah, we were there, then we went to my aunt, and then after that, I moved out at my place and been living by myself since I was 21, I believe. Yes, since I was 21, I've been living on my own.
Did you move out with your brother?
No, my brother went back to Ottawa. He had
what
too many friends. I know. I was so mad. He said French is not his thing. This whole French business was not for him.
But he speaks French, no?
Friends. He does, but it's a matter of what he prefers. Like he prefers English because he's always been into music, hip hop, all of that. So his English, and back in the days, my family had fled during the genocide. They had fled to the States. So my brother did go to school for a little bit in the States, and well, not kindergarten, garderie. I don't know how it's called.
Daycare.
daycare. There you go. So he's been doing, see, the languages.
It's good. I like it.
So, so then English initially was the language he spoke. Then he went back to Burundi. Then I was born there. And the French came up, but he's never been into French from the jump. Like he didn't like the language. And I think the way that things are taught, it makes you not necessarily like what you're learning. It makes you want to just do your own thing and just like, there's no extra like counselor who's gonna help you.
The counselor is this one right here.
That's it.
Back of the head.
That's it. That's the counselor. And if you need another counselor, there's
therapist is the other hand.
That's
it. Are you crazy? Get it together, Wait, you mentioned quickly the genocide, but I know Burundi and Rwanda are side by side. The genocide happened in Burundi as well?
Yes. It's just that the l'ONU decided that it wasn't a genocide because of the ratio of people who had died. So, yes, I had to do research. I remember I wanted to learn a whole lot about this. So in Cégep, all the classes that I would take, I would take extra courses to do extra research on Burundi, what happened and all of that. And I was like, what makes a genocide a genocide? And so then I was looking up all of that. And I was like, oh yeah, they kind of decide that. And I was like, well, if you ask the people there, they will tell you what it was.
We're getting killed right here.
Exactly. And so, the genocide did happen. It was just the ratio of the two ethnic groups. Well, the two main ones, because we have three. It's just the third one that is never talked about. Nobody cares about them. They're like, y'all on your side. Just stay there. So the two main that are fighting. I usually don't like. Oftentimes people like to make it big summary of like this big chunk of history that is very complicated. And so I don't really like to do that. But all I know is that people died, and people were killed, and some killed others were killed, and so when my family saw that, they're like, maybe we should leave this place, and And
how old were you then?
I wasn't born yet.
Oh, okay. Lucky.
My mother likes to remind me that I was conceived in Canada. I'm like, this doesn't help me in any way, shape, or form.
It doesn't do anything to me. By the way, for the people that doesn't know, I believe it was the Tutsi and the Hutu.
Yes.
That was, fighting.
Yes.
If you want to say fighting, or
I don't know. I think it's where do you begin? Do you begin at the fighting, or do you begin at what caused the fighting, or do you begin at what they did to cause and to what the Western cultures and for us it was the Belgians, what they did and how they treated us and the ideologies and different things that they instilled in us. I don't know where to begin. It's
very complicated, like you said.
It is, and that's where and that's the part where I don't like in the movies and things where people like to portray and say, okay, these are the nice ones, these are the bad ones, and it's like it's not a movie. This is not a Marvel movie where there's a bad guy, there's a good guy. No, this is real life where things are complicated, where everything is gray. Yeah. But what I can say for sure is that there was a lot of pain, that lots of trauma that was still to this day working through, and hence why the country cannot be stable in terms of security, because things can break out at any point depending on how, depending on what happens, who's in charge, what they do, how they're, depending on all of that, something can break out, So that's the part that remains a little bit scary, where you're like, when you don't go to the core root of the issue and actually address it. And that's the thing, because it was considered civil war, that title or that label remains. So anytime there'll be something that's happening, the Civil War. The Civil War. So yeah. It was I grew up, and that's the funny part, because like you grow up seeing this and you don't realize it's a problem to you. That's your everyday life. And so growing up, I remember in the 2002-3, there was I remember growing up, and it's like fighting, and you hear gunshots, you hear bombs, you hear all sorts of things, and they tell you as a kid, you're like, okay, if you see a mine somewhere, don't step on it, okay? And you're like, okay. Uh, those are the things that they would little PSAs for us. Don't step on the mine.
PSA. Me, I'm thinking about PSA. Like, by the way, don't drink hot coffee. You're like, by the way, if you see a bomb, don't step on it.
Yeah. It was crazy, but to me it was normal. That was my life. That's what everybody was going through, and in comparison to other people who were there, my life wasn't even that bad. If you look at it in that sense, like there are people who were living in another like different social economic background, and so that also created a disparity. But yeah, so my case wasn't even that bad. That was like the baby of it all. And then there are other people who saw things, who experienced things. I'm grateful that the things that I saw and did experience, I was still in a sheltered space or environment. But yeah, that was the upbringing. But it was also fun. There are so many great, beautiful moments that were within that I'm like, I can't. That's again, you see where I said that life is great. You can't. I can't say, oh, my childhood was bad or my childhood was good. It was my childhood. That's all I got, you know.
Yeah.
And there were beautiful things that were happening as terrible things were also happening.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it sucks that you have to avoid landmines and gunshots and whatnot, but I don't want to make it sound like, that very insensitive, but it makes it colorful in a sense. You know what I mean? Like, hey, listen, I don't want that. I don't want that to anyone. But what do you want to do? Just live in the suburbs and just, go to school, go back home, play sports? I'm not saying like I would choose avoiding gunshots over that. But, you got stories. You know what I mean? Like, it's such a weird thing, I find. Like, okay, that's our childhood. You were avoiding gunshots. I was, trying to avoid getting beat up or stabbed or whatever. It's not a good childhood in a sense, but it was still, we could always still, it's a good childhood somehow.
Right? Because of those beautiful moments, you're like, oh my God, like, had I not gone through that, I never would have gone through this. Had I not gone through that, I never would have developed this thing about me that I really love, this character trait that I really love. So it's a complicated thing. Obviously, you're left with a bunch of traumas that you have to deal with as well. So especially if you want to have children, you don't want to repeat the same things that were done onto you. So to undo, to unlearn, to be like, oh, okay, so this part of my childhood was not normal according to childhood laws and regulations. And then to go, okay, this part was pretty fun. When I did this, when I was with my family, when I was with my cousins, doing this, doing that, that was exceptional. My grandparents, got to grow up with them, got to see them. That was a beautiful, beautiful experience, especially now that they've passed on. It's very much something that I'm very, very grateful for, to have been able to spend so much time with them.
How did you learn that, though? Did you go through therapy or just figuring out yourself?
Learn the traumas?
No, like dealing with the traumas and
Oh, dealing with the traumas. That's therapy. At some point, I wasn't functioning properly. Like, you know, when you've been in bed for like a few days and you haven't showered in a few days, and you're like, maybe there's something that's happening here, or you can't pick up the phone, you can't answer anybody, you can't you have a hard time doing daily things like eating, things that you need to live and to survive. Showering, exactly. And so when I realized that my mom, like my second mom, she was like, we're living together at the time. And I was like, girl, get your shit together. There's something, and I can't help you. Your friends can't help you. You need professional help. And I avoided it for a long time, skipped it. I was like, I'll figure out another way to go about it. And eventually I just really couldn't do it at all. I unfortunately waited to the very much like the breaking point. And I then got a therapist. I had to do a bit of shopping because the first one was terrible. Terrible. It's very important to do your shopping. That's what, anytime I talk about mental health and I talk about my own journey, I always cannot stress enough to do the research and to actually try them out. Just like you try on clothes and they don't fit, you take them back to the store. You should do that with the therapist. Like you check them out. How is it? How do I vibe with you? Are you the type of person that I would normally talk to in my day-to-day life? And then, you carry on. So now I've been in therapy for 6 years now, with the same therapist. She's amazing. It was important for me to have a Black therapist. It was important for me to have somebody who understands the immigration process, because the first therapist just started telling me, why did your parents send you? I'm like, lady, this is not this is not what I came here for.
Same here.
Right?
Yeah.
And then they start talking shit about your family. You're like, hold on a second. Yeah. I get to talk shit about them. You don't get to talk shit about them. You don't know them. Plus, you're a white lady. How am I gonna talk to a white lady about my issues? Like,
have you ever seen a landmine and tried to avoid it?
How am I gonna tell that story to her? Already, I had just started the thought of like, I arrived in Canada in 2009 and and then just she didn't get it, and I stopped therapy for a bit. And then I had to still be encouraged by my family to be like, girl, you need this. It's important. And to see also my mom go through her own journey through mental health, and to see how she went about it was also very inspirational. And I was like, okay, if she can do it, if she's not scared, I can muster the courage to and do it as well.
Yeah, 100%. I remember my therapist, the first one. I was telling her like, the stories that we what we have, and she was just like shocked. I'm like, yo, you're not supposed to be shocked. You're supposed to listen. But she can't help it, right? Like, I don't blame her. But I had a guest, Taylor Murahashi. She is a social worker, and she emphasized that try to find a therapist that is in your community, in a sense that, like you said, like you're African, your therapist is Black, like it has something there, right? You could something, she might not experience that, but at least she understands the complexity of the family, and whatever else that comes with it.
Exactly. No, definitely, that was a game changer for me. And still is now. I whenever she's talking about vacation, I'm like, make sure you come back, okay? There's no retiring right now. I still need you.
Yeah. Have you ever thought of course she's awesome. Have you ever thought of like looking for someone else though? Because that happens sometimes. Like she's awesome, but maybe I'll want a different perspective.
No. I'm so good with her. Like, she gets me. And because we've been working together for so long, there are a lot of things that I don't have to repeat. And there are a lot of things that I went through with her. And so she can recall those moments. She can recall, okay, remember this? Like, remember what we learned? Remember what we talked about? Remember da 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 da. And then I can, I don't feel the need of, I don't feel like I have anything that I'm missing. Actually, I would need more money to see her more often.
Oh my
That would
God.
be great.
That would be great. Man, this is what I was saying. Like, this should be covered by the government, by
It should be.
because why it's this, like, this is a sickness, right? Like, why can't it be covered? You know, and
Yeah.
it's expensive.
Oh my God. Tell me about it. Oof. It's a whole investment.
It is. I mean, hey, listen, it's awesome. It helps you out, but hey, I need to eat too. You know what I'm saying?
Right? So now, because of that, I've cut down my therapy sessions to like once a month. And I get to the end, like like the week where I see her, I'm like, shake, you know, like a addict, like shaking, like, ah.
It's time to go.
Yes.
No, for sure. I mean, I try to. I haven't seen her for a while. I'm okay for now, but I've tried to do it like at least twice a week when I really need a help. But you know, like you said earlier, you learn skills from talking, and that's one thing that the therapy really does to you, is like you learn skills. Because people think you're just talking. Yes, essentially you're just talking, but then you learn skills from it. And I think that's the part that not being like educating people with. Like, therapy is not just about talking; it's about learning the skills, looking for your triggers. That before it happens, like, oh, this is what's gonna happen. I need to do this, so I don't have to do this again.
So that you're not always in action mode. You're actually proactive about it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're not reacting; you're acting.
You're
Yeah.
not reacting. You're acting ahead of time. Yeah.
Yeah, which is the most important thing.
Because
before,
reacting all the time is tiring.
oh, dude, bad. Like you're constantly thinking. Like, oh my God, man. Like, that's why I try to create. The one thing I learned is you have to set up routine. Routine helps so much. You don't have to think. Me, I'm stupid. I'm not that smart, you know? So I need routine because I don't have to think. It just happens, you know? Do you work out? Do you exercise?
I try. I haven't been on my fitness journey lately, but that's something that is on my to-do list. I do jujitsu, but that also goes with money. If you have money, you can.
Who said money can buy happiness, eh?
You know, those were lies. But yes, I do jujitsu. I play basketball sometimes too, and now I've been meaning to go to the gym actually to get some muscles because I don't have any strength anywhere, and everything is jiggly. I need a bit of firmness in there, yeah.
Do them squats, you know?
Yes, I need to.
I was going to ask you, living in Montreal, how's your Black experience in Montreal?
I had to find it. Because initially when I got to Montreal, so for me, it's two spheres in my Black experience. There is the Black, there is the African, and there is the Burundian. So those are three different communities. So the Burundian community, when I arrived here, I linked up with a few people I knew from back home. That I went to school together and things like that. So I was hanging out with them for a little bit before I went to school and had some friends. And so hanging out with them, they're showing me the ropes a bit. But then I was like, I want to know Montreal. I want to see Montreal from a Montreal perspective, not somebody who just like is in the same predicament as me. They just arrived and whatnot. So at school, I was with Africans, and so from all different countries.
Wait, Africa's not a one country?
Right. No, and we do not speak African either. Yes, so I was with them, and so through that I got to experience Montreal as an African with like my African friends, and for them to have different perspective and be like, oh, for us we do it like this, and us we do it like that, and oh no, we do it like that, and to have that whole experience. And then after high school, I was like, okay, I know I want to be an entrepreneur. I know I want to start something. I don't know what, I don't know how, but I know I want to start something. So if I want to start something, I need to know my peers. I need to know the people who are doing the things that I'm interested in. And so I did my work backwards because I didn't know what I wanted to do, nor in what field, and so on. So like, okay, let me just experience the Black Montreal. Like, let's see what the people who are born here, grew up here, or not, but people who are not African and or happen to be Black as well, how do they experience this city? And so I started going to different events, forcing myself, really. I didn't want to go.
Why?
I was scared. Like, who would want to go in an environment where you don't know anybody? I was scared. So I forced myself. I was like, okay, if you want this as bad as you say you do, you need to push through and go and explore and see who's out there and who does things and how they do things. And so I started just observing, going in an environment and observing, going in another environment and observing. And slowly but surely, I created a bit of a network through that. And it's with that work that I was then able to create my podcast, and then later on do like I had my friend who's helping me out who's like, you need to do this. He said, you've been talking about this project for way too long. It's time for you to actually put in the work and do it. So he gave me that little push. We did it together, and I was like, who do I want as a co-host? It's like, so obvious, my brother, the only person who can go head to head with me and actually like tell me things, and like I would be like, oh, okay. And so so then I was able to. That's basically how most of the guests I've been able to have them. It's people I met through this journey of just finding and exploring and figuring out what my Black is, because I didn't know I was Black, honestly. Before I got to Canada, I was just a Burundian person. And then the Blackness, I don't know, once I arrived in Canada, because other people saw me as a Black person, I was like, okay, so if y'all see me as that, then I must be that. And I was an African American, nor Canadian, African Canadian. So I was like, I don't know where I fit. And so I was like, actually, why not stand out? Why fit in? I don't want to fit in. So once I switched out that mindset, I was like, okay, I stand out already. I'm tall. So it's like, let me just go on with that motion and keep on and do that. That's how the Black experience has been for me. And then just warmth. When you go in the right crowds, the right places, the right people, with the people who are in alignment with your values and in alignment with how you see the world, you can only get inspired, and that will really like push you through to go through what you need to do. But yeah.
You learned that from therapy, I'm assuming. Just
which part?
Meaning like trying to choose the people that you want to chill with instead of trying to fit yourself, even though you don't, like become a people pleaser. I hate people pleasing. Thank God I was born that way, because I know some people are like, bro, you don't have to chill with this person. You can just Go somewhere else instead. And then, but they're gonna get mad or upset. Like, that's not your responsibility.
I had to learn. I had to learn. That's something I learned in therapy as well. I had to learn to be like, no. And to learn to say no. And to just be like, this is a full sentence. I've said no. That's it. I
So
don't need
powerful.
It's crazy powerful. I don't need to give you an explanation or anything. I said no.
Yeah. No. Oh, you want that? You want to drink the water? No. I want to drink this. Set up the boundary. Like I always say, that set up the boundary to protect your mental health. They can come close as they can towards that boundary, but they're not crossing that boundary. Because once you let them cross the boundary, it's not bueno.
And it's no longer a boundary if they've crossed it.
Exactly. Like I had some friends that like complains about work. Like, oh, they say, oh, this coworker of mine complains all the time. I'm like, yo, set up your boundary. Say, hey, listen, you're pissing me off, or you're upsetting me, or whatever you're feeling, and set up that boundary. Because sometimes people doesn't know your boundary, and they should not know your boundary because they don't know. They should, for them it's just like free for all, kind of, right? That's why it's your responsibility to set up that line.
Yeah.
Do you have a mentor, and do you have someone that you talk to other than your therapist, obviously?
I have great friends, fantastic. That have two of them, and long-term friendships that we've known each other for a really long time. So they've seen the growth and the evolution of everything.
Beautiful.
So that's also where I don't have to explain certain things. I also in different industries that I want to tap into, I also have mentors in that. So different people, but like I don't know if they're meant like they started off as mentors and then they've become family more so. So like they're like big sisters, big brothers that I never got to have. And they show me the way. They help me out a lot. And anytime I'm like, okay, anytime I'm just doubting myself, questioning myself, I can call them. I have my godmother too, who's my aunt. She's fantabulous. So there is her. And other friends and family members who are friends. And yeah, so it's I have like, it's important for me to have people, people I can count on, especially when with my mental health. Like if things are not going well, if things are not, properly aligned, I can call somebody and they can tell me, bitch, remember who the fuck you are, okay? Remember what you've done, you remember what you've gone through, you're that. I can be like, yes, I am that bitch.
She is you. You are her.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that. I mean, and that's amazing. But like, you need someone to talk to. You need someone that also, obviously, you also need someone that could tell you, like, hey, take it easy. Always like, hey, look at me, I'm amazing. No, dude, relax. You are amazing, but let's one step at a time.
Yeah. Go take a nap.
I love naps.
Same.
I saw that you're modeling. How did you get into that?
So I was in Cégep, and I had a what was it? This philosophy class. I don't remember what it was exactly, but a philosophy class. And there was a girl in there who was studying photography. And she was like, the whole semester, she would like look at me weird, and I'll just be like, whatever. And at the very end of the semester, she came up to me. She was like, okay, Stecy, I've been meaning to ask you this, and I wasn't able to all semester long. But could you please do a photo shoot with me for my school project, is their graduation project. I need to do this type of shoot, a studio shoot, and I need a model. And I was like, I don't know who you're talking to, because I am an athlete. I do sports. I don't do modeling. And but I don't know, somehow she caught me on the right day, honestly.
Yeah.
And I
Feeling
was,
good,
yes,
feeling
feeling
pretty.
myself. Yes, hey, let's do it. And prior to that, I had uh, a photographer. I was a part of a wedding thing, and the
Mm.
photographer and I, we kind of clicked. And it
Mm.
was like, oh, you wanna? While the bride was getting ready, he was like, yo, you wanna go and take a few shots, and
You just
sure,
stole you stole her day.
sure. And so we took a few pictures. And so I had that little bit in the back trunk, like my very first experience. And I was like, okay, now I have confidence. Let's go. So I went, did the photo shoot. It went really well. And because I'm also an artist, I was able to see the artistry behind it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, maybe because of the way it was done, and who she is. Shout out to her, Lena. I don't know how to pronounce her last name. It's one of those names we're saying that we can't pronounce. S. Lena S.
Let's stick with S.
Yes. So she did the photo shoot and was really good, really, really like the attention to details. And what was nice is because she's a student, she was also like saying things out loud as she was doing them, saying, oh, okay, this is the light and I have to put it like this so that it reflects this way, so that the color that comes out is this way. And I was like, oh, okay, I understand. And then to go and do poses and then trying out different things, a different outfit. She also had a makeup artist. I was like, wow, this is crazy. And so yeah, so that was the first time I did an actual photo shoot, and it went really well. And I kind of got the bug, I was like, okay, now I want to try out different things. I want to try out different poses. I want to try out different outfits, different makeup, hairstyles, and see what happens. And a few years later, I meet somebody who's now a friend. I meet a person that's like just a random interaction, and that's also, well, not random. I must say he's from Rwanda, and everybody from Rwanda and Burundi, sometimes if you meet each other in the street, you can recognize and you can be
Yeah.
like, "You're one of us," and there'll be that little head nod thing of like, I see you, wonderful.
Yeah.
And so we did that, and he was like, we couldn't talk. And she was like, okay, can we exchange infos? Like, no, I'm lying. He didn't ask me for my infos. We actually met later, in a company, random
No
working at,
way.
and he was working there. And we started talking, and then he told me, oh, I do photography. Would you be down for a photo shoot? I was like, sure. And he came at the right time once again, feeling myself. I'm in the better headspace and everything. And so I did the photo shoot. And then I was like, okay, I like this. And then for a little bit, for a few years, actually, him and I would work together. He would take my pictures. He ups his portfolio, I up mine, and then we'll work that way together. And now, then after a while, it's like, okay, I tried to do it freelance. It wasn't working because I didn't know people in that industry. So I knew the Black people, I knew I knew all the different networks that I had infiltrated, but I didn't know the people in the modeling world, like where I could actually make a living out of it. And so 2 years ago, 1.5 years ago, I just decided, I was like, okay, let me go with an agency. I'm done with this. Like, let me look for. So my crowd, my tribe, my people. I asked my girls. So I have two of my friends who one used to be in the modeling industry. The other one is in it in Europe. So they know the brands. They know all the things that I don't know. They know. So I asked them, can you please like look up each one of them? I asked them 2 to 3 modeling agencies that I could go into, that they can see me in, that represents me, represents my values, and so on. And sent them. I applied to all of them. And the people who came back to me and who had space and were also willing to work with me is Maven Models. So that's who I'm with. And it's been going well. It's hard though. It's really not easy. You
Why?
gotta, because it works a lot on your self-image, you know.
Mm.
So and that's also why I waited to be older to then start it for real, because I needed to be well and okay with myself, and for me to be like, okay, you don't like me, that's okay. This doesn't mean that I'm less than. This doesn't mean that I'm less worthy. This doesn't mean all of that. So yeah. So it was again therapy, work. And then I was like, okay, now I want to go in for the artistry of it and the beauty of it, the things that you get to do, the ways that you get to express yourself. Because ultimately, to me, I see it as like I'm basically like a canvas, and the photographer is the painter. And I like, okay, what is the vision? What are we going? What are we doing? How are we, feeling? What are we, all of that. So yeah, that's basically how I got into it. And now I've been with the agency. It's more fast paced, where in a sense that like you get things every day. They ask you, okay, do you want this? Do you want this? Do you want this? You feel like they're a plethora of options, and then they don't pick you, and then you're like, oh no, why did they pick me? And then again, it's that work of reminding yourself, like, no, what if you didn't pick them? What if the universe is blocking this one because they are not worth you? They're not, you deserve more, you deserve better, you deserve something that fits with you more. Just like an interview, like when we're going in a job interview, we like to think that they're interviewing us, but we're interviewing them as well, So that's how I've learned to see it. And now I don't even think about it. It's like in the back of my mind, and it's like, oh, okay, there's this that's happening, and then there's this event, and then you're like, okay, I'll go.
Yeah, that's crazy. I had a former guest as well. Her name is Yolanda Shimbarami. She's a model. She's a model. She's a beauty queen, and she told me that sometimes the director or the photographer will tell me that I'm not dark enough. I'm like, what? That is like terrible.
They can tell you some wild shit. Honestly, they can tell you some wild. But I'm so grateful. My agency, they haven't sent me in weird places. Like all the places they've sent me to, and the people I got to work with, they were great, and they were very much like they fit my vibe. They fit my values. So it was great. Like my first experience was great.
In the end, it's your call, though, right? Like if you're gonna work or not work.
Yes.
Okay.
So how they do is they send you an email with the client, how much money they will pay you, when are the dates, the details of things, and you have to say, do I want this project or not? And if you want it, then they go back to the client and they say, okay, I have this model, this model, this model, this model, and then the client picks from those models who they want. And sometimes you're not picked. And sometimes then you're like, what if this was gonna be a shitty experience? Like the experience for me. So I get somebody who's for them, and then I'll get what's mine.
I don't know, dude. I'm too insecure for that. I don't think I'll ever be able to like pick me, love me. I'm good looking.
You know what's great is that I don't even it has become now such a like automatism. I don't think about it. I'm just like, oh, this one, it's like shopping. Like, you go through your Amazon cart, you haven't bought in anything, but you have a list of things. So I'll go through the list and be like, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. And then just wait. And then I'll go, this no longer belongs to me now. This is no longer mine. I can release it. And if it comes back to me, it's meant to be. And if not, fuck it. It's not mine.
Beautiful. C'est la vie.
C'est la vie.
Luband Israel podcast. I was watching that. Yo, that's cool stuff, bro, right there, man. You had a
Yeah.
guest, season 3, episode 1, I believe. I forgot her name. She has a podcast too. I something.
Yeah.
She is dope,
Yeah.
bro.
Idil Khalid.
That's it, man. She was so cool. I'm like, yo, this chick is cool.
Oh, she's amazing. That's one of my mentors too. One of my big sisters. She's We've known each other for a few years on and off. We see each other in different events and things. And she's amazing. She's amazing. She has my heart.
Yeah. Tell the listeners what's the podcast about and what you're trying to do there.
So, le Bond is Real podcast. C'est un podcast que j'ai lancé. My brother is my co-host. So it's very much like the energy is you're coming home. It's very warm. You're going somewhere where you're going to bond with the people there, because that's something that's very important for me. Kind of like tying it back with my last name of like helping each other out and bonding, because ultimately what that creates are bonds. So that's really what I'm trying to create. The umbrella for all the guests is art and entrepreneurship. And oftentimes I find now it's become like creative entrepreneurship. And it's very cool because it's something that we don't get to hear enough of. And people like to think that if you're a creative or if you're in the arts, you're going to be broke and you're going to poor for the rest of your life. And I like to debunk and to demystify all that and to show what's actually being done, what actually can be done, and what is yet to be done. And for people to be like, oh, maybe I could do this, or maybe this one idea that I've always wanted to do, I could actually do, because there's so-and-so who's done it and didn't have anything. And so to have different journeys, different people, different walks of life, different cultures as well. Obviously, right now, I'm very much concentrated on the people who don't usually get the mic. And so you will not see a lot of white people. Actually, so far, no white person has come on the podcast yet, because I handpick every guest. They have to fit the energy. They have to be able to connect with me, connect with my brother, and then connect all of us together, because it's not like come here, ask you questions. It's very much like interacting. There's no script, although it's very much like organized. I just have the form in my head, and I translate that to my brother, and he's like, okay, you mean this, and that, do you mean that? Okay, got you. Okay, this is what we're doing. That's the game plan. Perfect. Let's go. And then we go, and we record. It's very much in the moment, vibing out, feeling out the energy, connecting, and being one ultimately. Dollars as Canadians, and to just show that we have way more in common than we have different. Like we all go through the same things, and to have the different ways in which people were able to get out of it, and to see like, oh, okay, like they did it like that. I could do it like that too if I want to get out of this situation, So that's the whole of the podcast. And I really enjoyed the experience.
I love it. I was watching, like, I was binging it 2 days ago. No, two days straight actually, and that was my favorite. That was one of my favorite. It was just like, because it was just a great conversation. You guys talking about colorism and taking sociology, and how people look down upon sociology, because like, oh, that's like try to get into college. But no, it's important. It's important to understand our lives, and why are these people doing this, and why are we doing it the other way,
And with social media, many people like to think that they're the first who thought of something, when there are theories, there are books, there are studies that have been done before. And if you look into it and actually like look at some of the things, you can see how how much it just affects you and molds you and molds the people around you, and you can have more compassion for other people as well, and have more empathy for others and for yourself. You can be like, okay, now, okay, so my cards were not.
It was shuffled.
They were shuffled, exactly.
Not the right way, so I need to unshuffle them.
Yes, it wasn't in any order whatsoever. So, and then you can learn how to deal with those cards that you were dealt with.
I saw that you guys are doing GoFundMe. How is that going?
It's going slowly but surely. It's that's another thing of doing everything in house, is because that's what we started. That's why we basically took a break, because we left our production company, because we wanted really to be all hands on to do everything from A to Z. And so now we're looking at a new studio. That's what the funds will go for. We're still able to get a significant amount of money, considering the fact that we're not doing the promo like we could do. So yeah, no, it's going slowly. Next week we're gonna launch a few more promotions just to incentivize people to come back on it. But no, it's going. It's like you put in work and things come back in return. It's like, you gotta look for people, because people forget. You can post some and they see a bajillion things every day, so they gotta keep reminding them, and that's work too on our end.
100%. Yeah, it's like when I posted on my account on an Immigrant's Life, I literally put the link, and people ask me, "Where's the link?" It's right there. You just have to click. Jesus, what do you want me to do, bro?
That's what happens. People will say, "Oh, do you still have the GoFundMe?" I'm like, "Did you check?" Yes. Still, did we reach the money? No, we did not. So you can still give.
Give more money, and then we will stop it.
Yes, exactly. Or they don't do anything. They don't write you, and then they see you in person. They're like, "Oh, I saw the GoFundMe."
Yeah, and thank you. But there was a friend of mine said that some people follows you to just keep tabs on you, but they're not really supporting you.
I've learned that too, the hard way.
Yeah, I also understand. That's one thing I learned from therapy is what's important to you. It doesn't mean it's important to others.
Amen to that.
I'm like that when my therapist said that, I'm like, yo,
that hit.
Whoa. That's one of my favorite about therapy. Like they'll say a line and I'm like, you son of a gun.
Right? In your core, you're like, oh.
Give me a minute. I need water.
I need to breathe. Give me a second.
I know, man. Do you have any aspiration to expand the podcast in the sense of like guestings and even viewership? Because right now it's Montreal centric, right?
Yes and no. In the sense that, yes, because globalization, the more people you can reach, the better. And strangely enough, although it's a very much Montreal podcast, the people who listen are all around the world, because diaspora. So I have people from all around the world listening. We have people in Africa, I think Kenya, Burundi, obviously, Rwanda, Belgium, even Australia. There are some people in Australia who are watching the podcast. I was like, what? How? So it's I initially was just gonna be a Montreal thing, but now we're definitely gonna expand because the listeners are everywhere. And that's also another thing where we want to bring in more English podcasts, because we're very much franglais. It's if you don't speak French and English, it's gonna be hard to follow. There are certain episodes that are fully in English, but it's not a lot. So that's something that we're gonna try to work on as time goes on. But definitely we're gonna expand this the podcast for me is an entrance, is the project. You know, when I was saying that I knew I wanted to say things, I didn't know in what form, I didn't know how, when, but I knew I wanted to say something. And so this is the place for me to say things, for my brother to say things, and for people to feel represented and to feel heard and seen. Yeah, but definitely we're gonna do more things like events, even in the future, live recordings, different things that are gonna happen, that we're working on. And for that to happen, we need help with the GoFundMe.
For sure. I'm gonna put the link on the when I release the episode, definitely. But going back to what you said that you're doing franglais, that's how good the episode was talking about with sorry, I forgot her name again.
Zil.
Idil. That's
Yes.
how good it was. 'Cause my French is not so good, but it was so good. I was just continue listening, and I'm like, no, this is so good. Like I don't care if I miss some parts. That's fine because when they turn into English, I got it. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love when she talk about like I don't want to protest. I just want to chill, man.
I want soft life.
Yeah.
I want to sleep. I want to nap. I want to rest.
I love that. Listen, I think we're getting there. Actually, we are there.
All
But before
right.
we close out, I saw this post of you on Instagram. You said 3 words I would tell my 18 years old self. Have you updated that? Or if you haven't, you tell us anyway.
Good question. I would tell my 18-year-old self that life is longer than what I think. Yes, things move fast, but things also move slow. And so I can tap into the slow as well. The second thing I would say is you're doing better than you think. You are wiser, smarter than you think. The third thing I would say, you are loved. You are loved, you are cared for, and you are cherished.
100. Wise word from a wise woman again. Stacy, thank you so much for coming to the podcast. I really do appreciate it.
Oh, it was my pleasure. Thank you for having me. Honestly, this was really fun. The time went on this.
Always. Anyway, have a good evening.
You too.
Thank you. Bye. Again, Stacy, thank you for coming on the podcast. I really do appreciate it. Thank you, listeners, for listening. This is Aaron Deliosa for An Immigrant's Life. I'll see you guys later.